There's a common fear that many of us carry, the fear of being alone. We think that if we are alone, we are missing out or somehow failing. But here's the paradox. Some of the most extraordinary growth in human history has happened when people embraced solitude. When you step back from the noise of the world, when you sit with yourself without distraction, something remarkable begins to happen. You discover clarity, you discover your values, and you discover what truly matters. Being alone is not a punishment, it is a gift, a space where the mind can breathe and the heart can speak. Think about the moments in your life when you've been truly alone, not just physically, but mentally. Those quiet mornings before the city wakes up, or late nights when the world is asleep. In those moments, you are stripped of all external influence. There is no one to impress, no one to compare yourself to, no one to validate your choices. And in that absence, you meet yourself. This is where focus is born. This is where intention begins to take shape. Solitude gives you the freedom to question, to plan, to dream, and most importantly, to act without hesitation or distraction. Psychologists tell us that solitude is essential for self-reflection. When we are alone, our brain engages in a process called default mode thinking, essentially the mental space where we analyze our experiences, our goals, and our emotions. It is in this quiet mental landscape that insight emerges. It is where you can examine your life honestly, recognize your patterns, and make deliberate choices rather than reacting to external pressures. Imagine how much power you gain when every decision comes from clarity rather than chaos. That power comes from being comfortable in your own presence, from learning to stand alone without fear. Philosophers across time have spoken about the value of solitude. Nietzsche once said, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often and sometimes frightened." When we talk about being alone, it's easy to imagine that solitude alone is enough to transform us, but the truth is, solitude without focus is just time passing by. What separates those who achieve their dreams from those who drift is not the hours they have alone, but how they use them. Focus is not just a skill, it is a form of courage. It is the decision to look past fear, distraction, and doubt, and to commit to the work that will shape your life. Fear has a way of creeping in even when we are alone. It whispers, "What if you fail? What if you're not enough?" And the world around us amplifies it. Social media, constant comparisons, endless noise, all of it conspires to pull our attention in 100 directions. But focus asks a simple question: what matters most? And it insists that you say no to everything else. That insistence, that discipline is where transformation begins. Psychologists have shown that our attention is our most valuable resource. Every thought we entertain, every choice we make shapes the path of our lives. When you are focused, you direct this resource with precision rather than letting it scatter to trivial fears or external expectations. Focus is not about ignoring the world, it's about choosing what deserves your energy. It is about recognizing that you cannot do everything, and that attempting to do so only dilutes your impact. Every great achievement in history, every innovation, every act of courage was born from someone choosing to focus intensely despite uncertainty. Think about the people you admire. Rarely were they distracted by the noise of critics or the doubts of others. They didn't wait for perfect conditions or public approval. Instead, they cultivated an inner clarity, a steady commitment to the work before them. Focus requires that same inner clarity. It demands that you confront fear directly, understand its source, and decide that it will not dictate your actions. Fear, left unchecked, fragments your mind and clouds your purpose. Focus, however, channels fear into energy, transforms hesitation into action, and uncertainty into a roadmap. There is also a philosophical dimension to focus. The Stoics believed that we do not control the world, only our choices. Distractions, external judgments, and setbacks are inevitable, they are part of life. But how you choose to direct your attention, how you choose to act in the face of fear, is entirely within your control. Focus is the practice of sovereignty over your own mind. It is the declaration that your energy belongs to your vision, not to the endless noise around you. It is not easy. Focus requires daily vigilance. It asks that you create boundaries, that you guard your time, and that you resist the temptation of immediate gratification. But the reward is immense. With focus, every hour becomes a step toward mastery, every challenge a lesson in resilience, every fear a signal of growth waiting to happen. You learn that distraction is not just wasted time, it is a form of surrender. And when you refuse to surrender, you become powerful in ways the world cannot take away. Imagine a life where fear no longer dictates your choices. Imagine approaching each day with clarity and purpose, knowing exactly where your energy should flow. That is the power of focus. Alone, you can reflect alone, you can dream, but only with focus do those dreams become reality. Fear may still visit, but it becomes a companion to challenge, not a ruler over your actions. Your attention, once protected and disciplined, becomes a force that shapes your destiny. So today, I invite you to ask yourself, what are you letting steal your focus? What fears are silently guiding your decisions? And what would be possible if you claimed your attention as your most precious asset? Focus is not an abstract idea, it is a practice, a daily choice, a declaration of your commitment to yourself and to your life. Fear may be present, but it does not have to be in control. Focus transforms fear into fuel, distraction into direction, and potential into achievement. And as you leave this space, carry this thought with you. Clarity of purpose is not found in the chaos of the world, but in the deliberate choice to focus, to act, and to refuse distraction. Your future is not a matter of luck, it is a matter of where you place your attention. Choose wisely, choose courage, and let focus be the force that propels you forward. Being alone is one thing, and focusing is another, but neither reaches its full potential unless it is paired with action. Isolation, when embraced wisely, can be one of the most powerful tools for productivity. Many people think productivity is about doing more, moving faster, or filling every minute with tasks. But real productivity is different. It is not about being busy, it is about being deliberate. It is about using the time you have, especially the time you spend alone, to build the skills, habits, and mindset that will carry you far beyond the noise of the world. When we are isolated, free from the constant demands of others, we have an opportunity that most people overlook. We can study ourselves as if we were a subject in a careful experiment. We can observe what distracts us, what excites us, what drains us, and what fuels us. In this quiet, uninterrupted space, we can design our days and our lives intentionally rather than letting circumstance design them for us. Solitude becomes a laboratory for growth. It is where ideas form, where strategies take shape, and where discipline is tested. Psychologically, isolation allows for deep work. Cognitive science has shown that our brains need periods of uninterrupted concentration to perform at their highest level. Multitasking, social distractions, and constant interruptions fragment our thinking, making it nearly impossible to achieve meaningful progress. But when you embrace isolation with purpose, you create a mental environment where ideas can mature, skills can deepen, and insight can emerge. This is how mastery is born, not from random effort, but from consistent, focused practice carried out in the quiet spaces where the world is not watching. Isolation also teaches resilience. When you rely on yourself to fill your hours with meaningful action, you begin to understand that your capacity is not defined by external validation or support. You learn that growth can happen quietly, away from applause, and that your strength comes from within. There is a discipline in showing up for yourself every day, in choosing progress even when it is unseen, and in trusting that the work you do alone matters profoundly. This resilience is what prepares you for the inevitable challenges of life. Those who are dependent on external approval are fragile, they rise and fall with the opinions of others. Those who have learned to turn isolation into productivity are unshakable because they know their own worth and their own capability. Philosophically, this practice of productive isolation aligns with the idea that true freedom comes from self-mastery. When you learn to structure your time, to engage fully with your own mind, and to take responsibility for your own growth, you are no longer controlled by circumstance or by others' expectations. Your life becomes a reflection of your choices, not of the chaos around you. In solitude, you are free to cultivate patience, persistence, and excellence, qualities that cannot be rushed or outsourced. You are free to build a foundation strong enough to support your highest ambitions. And here's a critical point: productive isolation is not passive. It is not retreating from life. It is engaging with yourself and your potential in the most deliberate way possible. It is setting goals, tracking progress, learning new skills, reflecting honestly on mistakes, and making incremental improvements every day. It is the quiet work behind the scenes that creates visible results later. Every success you admire, the books written, the businesses built, the art created, was once cultivated in solitude. Those achievements were born from the willingness to embrace isolation and to turn it into consistent, meaningful action. Isolation also helps you confront your fears and limitations directly. Without the distractions of the outside world, you are forced to look inward. What weaknesses have you ignored? What habits hold you back? What beliefs about yourself are false or limiting? Facing these questions requires courage, but it is also liberating. Once you identify the obstacles within, you can take steps to remove them. Isolation is a mirror. It shows you exactly where you are and what is possible if you choose to act. So when you feel alone, do not fear it. Do not fill it with mindless activity or endless distractions. Instead, ask yourself, how can I use this time to become stronger, wiser, and more capable? How can I turn this quiet into action that moves me closer to my goals? By doing so, isolation stops being a barrier and becomes a launch pad. It is no longer a space of emptiness, but a space of creation. You become the architect of your own life, building every day with purpose, discipline, and clarity. And as you step away from this thought, remember this: the hours you spend alone are not wasted, they are investments. Each moment of deliberate, focused effort compounds. Each skill learned, each habit formed, each insight gained in isolation becomes part of the foundation on which your future success is built. Embrace your alone time, transform it into productivity, and let it carry you to heights that only your determination and focus can reach. Your isolation, when harnessed wisely, is not a limitation, it is your greatest opportunity.